Khalaye Srila Tankana Khalaye Ito Nisingha Parato Nisingha Yato Yato Yami Tato Nisingha Bahi Nisingha Hridaye Nisingha Sharanang prapade Tava kara kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Vringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Keshavadrita Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nrsimhadev Bhagwan ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Welcome to Shri Radha Govinda Mandir. We're all very happy to have you. We have a very special guest speaking tonight. His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Swami. So introduction to Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj. After graduating from the University College London, he became a 21-year-old monk and continues that journey over 2 decades. Having studied ancient Sanskrit texts for over 25 years, he has gone on to author 10 books and design over 50 courses, empowering his audiences to apply ancient insights to upgrade relationships, discover purposes, overcome inner blocks, and craft well-being on all levels. Nowadays, he's a globetrotter, teaching in eminent academic institutions, Fortune 500 companies, governmental organizations, and spiritual communities. He remains a thought leader on the cutting edge, inspired to share wisdom that breeds not just book knowledge, but deep spiritual insights that transform character and consciousness. And tonight, Maharaj will be speaking about a community of love. So the schedule is from now until whenever Maharaj wants to stop. We'll have the lecture, and then we'll have a little Kirtan afterwards, and then Prashad. And if we just request everybody to scoot forward, maybe ladies can be on the left side, and then gentlemen can be on the right side, just to keep things kosher. So you guys can move over here. And please scoot in. We've invited the whole borough of Brooklyn to come and visit us. So let's give a big round of applause to Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. Wonderful to be in New York. Even a Londoner can say that. Such a historic place, New York, and Srila Prabhupada's presence is so strong here. We're very, very fortunate. And thank you to all of you continuing all the amazing work of the Krishna consciousness movement here. It's really a magical place, and I'm sure so many more magical things will happen today and for many days to come. So today we'll speak a little bit about the community of love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and what he created for each one of us to blossom our Krishna consciousness. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Pijana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna everyone, thank you so much. Really happy to be here again. So today we're speaking about the community of love. In the Mahabharata, Vidura, who is a very wise person, he says there's 3 things you should never do alone. Number 1, eat delicious food. Never alone, always together. Kadamba Cafe. He says the second thing you should never do alone is make important decisions, because your decisions determine your destiny. And we always think we have the bright idea, but just speaking with a few well-wishers can give us different perspectives. He says never do it alone, making big decisions. And the third thing Vidura says never do alone is go on a long journey. Never go on a long journey alone. If you want to go fast, walk alone. But if you want to go far, walk with many. And so, community is so important. because without community, it's not possible. It's not possible to make the journey back to the spiritual world. We are kind of lost in space. Brahmande Brahmite, Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, Bhakti Lata Beach. The soul has been circumambulating the material existence for lifetimes. And somehow or other it got the opportunity to understand there's something more than just this disaster zone of the material world. Thank God. But if you want to get to that place, then it's a long journey back. And in order to complete that journey, you need to go with many others. You can't do it alone. All of our teachers, Srila Prabhupada himself said, if you think you can perfect this spiritual path alone, you're mad. It's not possible. We need each other. We need to walk together. I have to say, when I came to the Hare Krishna movement and I decided to become a monk, I was trying to escape people. I was like, it's about me, God, and everyone. See you later, alligator. Like, it's okay. I've had enough of interactions of this world. So I joined to become a monk in order to live a life, me and God. And then every other class I heard in the Hare Krishna temple was about love, relationships, and community. And I was like, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to be a lone person on the journey. It's amazing, as years have gone by, I now realize that actually my relationships, my friendships, my connections with others are actually the most valuable thing I have in my life. Because actually, if you have good relationships, if you're part of a good community, and if you form a family with spiritual people, then from that, everything else you require in your spiritual life comes. When I was 15, I met an eminent person, His Holiness Bhakticharu Swami. And I was 15 and I came to a youth program. And they told me, you have to ask the Swami for an instruction. This is a common recommendation. So I asked the Swami for an instruction and he said, make as many friends as you can. And I thought that was quite a simple instruction for a 15-year-old. And now 30 years later, I realize that's the essence of everything. If you have friends, if you have connections, if you have community, everything is possible. So the whole Krishna consciousness movement is to make this community of love. It was very beautiful. The other day we went down to 26 2nd Avenue. Just sitting there in the storefront. Just remembering that actually Srila Prabhupada, he just started a family there. It was a family and he lived with everyone. He cooked for them. He queued up for the shower just like all of them. He counseled them through their ups and downs. He wasn't just a Swami speaking of a seat and giving high philosophy, but he was living with them, he was caring for them, and he was actually walking the journey with them. And therefore we realize, yes, this Hare Krishna movement has become an international organization, but actually it started as a family. And it may become an international organization, but if it doesn't remain a family, then it ain't the Hare Krishna movement. So sometimes our temples are compared to different things. We say the temple is an army base. Got to be careful what you say on that. Dropping bombs. So yes, the temple is an army base. It's a place from which we're going out and we're fighting illusion. Sometimes we say the temple is like a hospital. And everyone here is trying to get better. That's true. Sometimes we say the temple is a school and it's a place where you learn lessons. That's true. But my question to you is, do you live your life in an army base? Do you live your life in a hospital? Do you live your life in a school? Where do you live your life? In a home. And therefore a temple may be so many things. But in essence, what a temple is meant to be, or a community is meant to be, is a home. And so, perhaps the biggest purpose of the Hare Krishna movement is to create a community of love. Nowadays, people just can't stay together. It's very difficult. Woody Allen, he said, me and my wife, we drive in separate cars, we live in separate houses, we have separate groups of friends, and we do separate hobbies. We're doing everything we can to keep our relationship together. Because nowadays, as soon as people get together, there's always some friction. So, if we're really a spiritual movement, then we have to show that this is different. This place is a place where people actually connect with each other deeply. And so today I'm going to share with you some of the principles which make a community a community. And I'm going to try and share it with you based on the life and times of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As all of you are aware, Sri Chaitanya is Krishna himself, the divine, but he comes to the world in the form of a devotee. E mata bhakta bhav kori angikar, apani achari bhakti korila prachar. Krishna says, E mata bhakta bhav, I'm going to come as my own devotee. You never hear about this in any theology of the world. If you hear about the devotee crying for God, you have to understand this is advanced theology. But if you hear about a theology where God cries for the devotee, then you have to understand this is more advanced. But if you ever come across a theology where God becomes a devotee to cry for himself, that's off the scale. That is what Krishna does. So he comes as a devotee and he shows apani achari bhakti korila prachar. The best way to teach is by your own example. And so he shows how to be a devotee. And he spreads the Krishna consciousness movement. And so the journey of Sri Chaitanya begins in a place called Navadvip. As all of you know, this is where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advents himself. And at one point in his life, he has a spiritual experience. God joins the Hare Krishna movement. Because he goes to a place called Gaya, and although he's very, very learned and he knows so many things, his spiritual master puts him in his place. Murkha tumi tomar nahek vedanta dikar, Krishna mantra japa sada, ei mantra sar. You think you know so many things? You think you're so learned? You think that you've clocked all the philosophy of this world? Murkha tumi, you don't understand, you're a fool. In this world, nobody can realize it. Instead, what his spiritual master tells him, Krishna mantra japa sada, ei mantra sar. Just take the name of Krishna, and from the name of Krishna, everything will come. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins chanting the name. And after he chants the name, then it tastes so sweet. He becomes absorbed in ecstatic symptoms of love, of happiness. And he begins sharing that love in Navadvip. And then, when someone has happiness, it can't be contained. You know that somebody is truly happy if they want to share that happiness with others. Happiness can never be selfish. Happiness can never be contained within a limited sphere. Happiness, if it's truly happiness, must be shared. And therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes around South India and goes around all the towns and villages. Patra patra vichar nahi nahi stan stan, je jone paye tane kare prem adhan. He didn't consider this is a good place, that's a bad place. He didn't consider this is a qualified person, that's an unqualified person. Je jone paye tone kare prema dhan. Wherever he went, anyone he came in contact with, he gave them pure love for Krishna. So the Hare Krishna movement spread like wildfire. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to document all of the means and the process by which anyone in the future can also develop this love. And therefore, in Prayag and Varanasi, he instructed the two great saints, Rupa and Sanatan, and he instructed them on how to structure and organize the Krishna consciousness movement. Bhakta Bhakti Krishna Prem Tatvera Nidhar Vaishnavera Kritya Ara Vaishnava Achar. He told them, you write everything down of how people in the future, if they are desirous to awaken love within their heart, you will give them the process by which to do that. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to a place called Jagannath Puri. And there he stays in Jagannath Puri for the rest of his life. But in the first years of being in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets with all of his very, very dear associates. And if you look very, very closely of how he interacts with each one of these associates, you'll understand what it means to create a community of love. And after having created that community of love, then finally, in the final part of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, he goes into seclusion. Kiba mantra, kibe gosai, kibe tarabal, japite japite mantra, korite pagal. He says, I'm chanting the mantra again and again, and I'm becoming completely mad. So in the final stage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, he just retreats into transcendental madness. And so this is basically the journey of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. And if you look very, very closely, what's happening? First, he's starting the Hare Krishna movement, and then he's spreading the Hare Krishna movement, and then he's structuring the Hare Krishna movement, and then he's solidifying the movement by teaching culture, by building community. And then he's savoring the Hare Krishna movement, because ultimately this movement is meant to make people completely mad. If you become mad after Krishna, mad after God, mad after pure love, then the Hare Krishna movement has done its job. So, it's very, very strategic. It's very, very sequential. And today what I'm going to focus on is the fourth part of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, where he stays in Jagannath Puri and he meets with his different associates and he spends time with them. And if you look very, very closely, how he deals and how he glorifies and appreciates each one of these associates will give you the clues as to what it takes to build a community of love. I'll share with you 7 principles from these chapters of the Antya-lila, chapters 1 to 13. I'll go fairly quick and then I'll open it up and see what questions you may have. But essentially, if any community wants to understand whether they are developing actually a community of love, these 7 principles are like very, very clear measures and barometers. The very first thing that happens in the Antya-lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is Rupa Goswami, who met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag, Allahabad, Dashashvamedha Ghat, and who got instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 10 days. That same Rupa Goswami comes back to Jagannath Puri because he wants to spend more time with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First he spent 10 days, and then he comes to Jagannath Puri and he spends 10 months. And if you look at the way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relates to Rupa Goswami, it gives us a very, very deep clue about what a community of love has to embody. When Rupa Goswami comes to Jagannath Puri, the first thing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does is he takes Rupa Goswami around to all the other associates in Jagannath Puri, and he introduces him to each one of them, and he says, please take care of him. This is very, very beautiful. He then goes around and he begins to glorify Rupa Goswami to each one of these associates. Bhaktira mahime kohe Prabhu pancha mukh. It said that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying his devotees, it's as though he had 5 mouths. You know that you're living in a community of love when devotees are inspired to appreciate each other. When devotees are inspired to see good things in others and to vocalize and share that with everyone else. A community of love is a community of appreciation. Because let's face it, everyone needs appreciation. Just like today I was walking and in the sky I saw the pigeons. And you see the pigeons, they fly in a V shape. So this is actually a great science. There's many lessons you can learn from it. But it's said that when pigeons fly in a V shape, then the one who's on the front is taking the brunt of the wind. So that one on the front never stays on the front permanently. They take it in turns and they keep moving. But it's said that the ones at the back are quacking very loudly. That's their job. The one at the front is taking the heat, taking the wind in this case. But the ones at the back are quacking very loudly. Because that appreciation, that word of encouragement, actually everyone has so much potential in them. All they need is someone to come in their ear and say, you can do it. And that appreciation goes a long way. So therefore, where there's a community of love, there's always this desire to glorify others. Rupa Goswami comes to Jagannath Puri and he sees Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in front of the Jagannath Rath Yatra, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going into ecstasy. No one can understand what's going through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind, but Rupa Goswami understands. And therefore Rupa Goswami goes back to his hut and he writes a verse on a palm leaf. And this verse is basically encapsulating what is going through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind. He writes this verse, he puts it in the roof of the hut. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes into the hut, he's like, what's that? He picks out the verse and he reads it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu nearly faints. He said, who wrote this? He said, Rupa Goswami wrote it. How did he understand my mind? It's kind of unnerving if someone can read your mind. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is baffled. He goes to Swarup Damodar. He says, how did Rupa Goswami understand my mind? And Swarup Damodar looks at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, why are you surprised? You're the one that empowered him. You empowered him to know your mind. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realizes, yes, I instructed him in Prayag. I revealed my heart to him. And because he was very, very open, he understood everything. And therefore he has become empowered by me. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Pravartan. Everyone needs to be empowered by Krishna. So this is also very, very beautiful, that in a community of love is full of empowerment. In other words, everyone is thinking, how can everyone else rise to their greatest potential? In the material world, everyone is always trying to keep you down. Everyone is trying to keep you 3 levels lower than them. Everyone is just making sure that their position is maintained. But in a community of love, everyone wants everyone else to be better than them. Once I came to someone and I said, how do you know who is a leader who's worthy of being followed? There are seminars and seminars on what it means to be a leader. I also studied leadership at university. And this devotee looked at me and he said, if you ever come across someone who wants you to be better than them, follow them. I was like, I went to university for 3 years learning about leadership and you nailed it in one statement. If you ever come across a person who wants you to be better than them, that's a leader. And that's someone you should follow. And that is what happens in a community of love. There's appreciation and there's empowerment. There's not competition, there's not envy, there's no insecurity, there's no complex that someone is rising too high. No, it's great. Prabhupada said to one of his disciples, I had 5,000 disciples, you should double it, triple it. You should do even better than me. So therefore, this is what we have to build within our communities. Later on in the chapters of the Antya-lila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets with Haridas Thakur. Everyone is being empowered. And everyone is being empowered in different ways. Rupa Goswami was empowered. Rasa Acharya, the teacher who understood the deepest mellows. And Haridas Thakur was also empowered. Namacharya, the one who was empowered to chant the holy names of Krishna with deep spiritual absorption. And so, Haridas Thakur represents someone who is deeply spiritually absorbed. In a community of love, for a community to be a community of love, each of the individuals in that community have to be connecting very, very deeply with Krishna on an individual level. Haridas Thakur was so absorbed. His spirituality meant sense gratification came to him, but he was not diverted. Haridas Thakur showed that suffering came to him, but he was not diverted. Haridas Thakur showed that sickness came to him, but he was not diverted. These are the 3 things which divert someone in their spiritual journey: sense gratification, suffering, and sickness. And Haridas Thakur faced those things to a superlative degree. Yet because of his spiritual absorption, none of those things diverted him from his object of love. Therefore, a community of love can only be a community of love if each member of the community is going deeper in their spirituality. You see, when people are spiritually absorbed, they have greater service attitude and they hold less grudges. They're less affected by the things of this world. Most communities, most relationships break down because we don't know how to serve others and we don't know how to overlook things that may sometimes annoy us or affect us. But when we're spiritually absorbed, this service attitude is expanded and this ability to forgive is expanded. And therefore, without this spiritual absorption, there'll be too many conflicts. There'll be too many quarrels, there'll be too many disagreements. And therefore, sometimes in the name of productivity, sometimes in the name of pressure, sometimes in the name of getting things done, if the spirituality of the individual members of a community is compromised, then you might find that you get things done, but the community breaks down. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies Haridas Thakur. His purity is what is energizing the community. Sometimes we don't appreciate, we only appreciate people for the external things, the external productivity. But actually, the greatest gift that you can give to a community is your character, your consciousness, and your compassionate heart. That is the greatest gift actually that you give to a community. And when we become deeply spiritually absorbed, we give the best of our consciousness, we give the best of our character, and we naturally relate to people in a very compassionate way. And so Haridas Thakur shows us that this spiritual strength is another vital ingredient in a community of love. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami had also met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Varanasi. And he also came back to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's described that when Sanatana Goswami made his journey to Jagannath Puri to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the second time, then on the way he contracted a skin disease, and therefore his body was covered with sores which were oozing with blood. But when he arrived in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu unhesitatingly hugged him, embraced him. Sanatana Goswami said, "Why are you embracing me? My whole body is defiled." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't care about that. He overlooked that. He said, "Your body has become completely spiritual because you're using it entirely in the service of Krishna." It's said that there was only one part of Sanatana Goswami's body which wasn't covered in sores, and that was his soles, the soles of his feet. But one day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invited Sanatana Goswami for lunch. And Sanatana Goswami journeyed. Lunchtime means when the sun is at the height, the most intense. And Sanatana Goswami arrived at the place where they were to take lunch, and his soles were covered in sores. The only part of his body that was okay had now also become covered in sores. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "How is your body covered in sores? Even your soles were fine." He said, "Yes, I walked by the beach to come here, and the sand on the beach was scorching hot." Mahaprabhu said, "Why did you come that way? You could have just come via the Jagannath temple." Sanatana Goswami said, "My body is impure. My life is impure. And if the priests of the Jagannath temple accidentally touched me, then they would become contaminated." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the humility of Sanatana Goswami, and he said, "You understand Vaishnava culture. You understand etiquette. You have a deep sensitivity of how your presence is affecting others. And therefore you are the emblem of Vaishnava culture and etiquette." And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies Sanatana Goswami deeply because of his adherence to culture and etiquette. So there can only be a community of love when the community has culture and etiquette. There's a culture of how we should speak to each other. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyam hitam chayat svadhyaya bhyasanam cheva vanmayam tapa uchyate. Krishna explains the art of how you should speak to others. There's a culture of speech. There's a culture of respect for elders, for juniors, for peers. There's a culture of how you receive someone. your hospitality. There's a culture in that. And there's a culture of how you resolve disagreements. Everything in Vaishnava community is guided by culture. Because if you have good culture, then you protect against offenses, and simultaneously you attract blessings. And so a community which doesn't have culture, a community which doesn't have a shared set of how values in terms of how we interact with each other, in those communities it becomes very difficult for people to establish deep relationships. And so through Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals that real community has a very, very strong and powerful culture. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spends time with Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami is almost like a very mystical character. From his youth, from his young days, he's trying to run away from home and meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And every time his parents catch him and bring him back. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally tells him, like, relax, like, your time will come, just bide your time. Anyway, finally, Raghunath Das Goswami manages to leave home, and he comes and joins Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri and stays there for the rest of his life before eventually going to Vrindavan. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he symbolizes many, many things, but one of the most amazing things that Raghunath Das Goswami exemplifies and embodies is detachment. He's completely detached. Detached from the desire for power, detached from the desire for popularity, detached from the desire for position, detached from any kind of profit. He's completely detached from all of these things, has no interest. And therefore he becomes known as the kind of the teacher of detachment. He's completely detached. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks at Raghunath Das Goswami and he says, Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. I was teaching the world this, you're living it. The devotee should want no sense of wealth, no followers, no attention from the opposite gender or from eminent people. Doesn't want any of that. So a community only becomes a community when individuals embody this detachment. Most communities, even religious communities, break down because there is a competition. There's a competition for power, there's a competition for prestige, there's a competition for position. And because even within a spiritual community it's very, very easy to get attached to all of these things, then this breaks down the possibility of actually having deep interactions of love. And so Raghunath Das Goswami teaches through his own example that when in a community we share the value that someone is worthwhile not because of external things. Someone is worthwhile because of their devotion. We glorify the right things. Then people don't seek external superficial things for validation, but they actually seek the real thing that they're meant to be developing, which is pure spiritual consciousness. And so Raghunath Das Goswami also through Mahaprabhu's interactions with him teaches us this principle. Then there's a very, very famous story of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Govinda. Govinda is actually the godbrother of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're both initiated by Ishvara Puri. But Govinda, he comes to Jagannath Puri to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so every day he has a rota, a routine of how he serves Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's explained that every day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chants, dances, goes into ecstasy, becomes really tired, and then takes prasadam. And after he takes prasadam, he lies down. And when he lies down, then Govinda comes into the room and Govinda massages him. This is like the daily schedule. So on one particular day it's mentioned that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very fatigued. And then he took his prasadam. And then he just lied down, but he lied down right in the doorway. And so when it came to the time for Govinda to come and massage him, Govinda couldn't get into the room. So he told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can you just move to one side? I need to get into the room. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was kind of in semi-consciousness. He said, you just do what you want to do. I can't move. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. So Govinda, he puts a chadar over Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. And then he steps over Mahaprabhu's body. And he says, you can't step over someone's body, what to speak of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's considered a big offense. But Govinda Das does it. And he enters the room. And then from within the room, he begins massaging Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And every day after massaging, then he would take his own lunch. But on this particular day, of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was blocking the door. So when Mahaprabhu woke up, he saw Govinda Das and he said, why are you still here? He said, oh, I came in to massage you. How did you get in? You walked over my body. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, but why haven't you gone and taken your prasadam? He said, I couldn't get out because your body is blocking the door. He said, but you came in by stepping over my body. So why didn't you just go out and step over my body again? And then Govinda Das said, for your service, I'm willing to do anything. But for my comfort, for my gratification, how could I do such a thing? Through this and through many, many other interactions with Govinda Das, we're learning service attitude. This is actually the hallmark of a Vaishnava. And so a community of love becomes a community of love when everyone is in the mood of asking, what can I do to serve? Etavad janma safalyam dehina miha dehishu pranir arthe diya vacha shreya acharanam sada. The Bhagavatam says we each have 4 things at our disposal that we can utilize in service. Prana, your energy. Artha, your wealth. Dhiya, your intelligence. And vacha, your words. In a community where everyone becomes very, very enthusiastic because of their service attitude to engage their prana, artha, dhiya and vacha in service, then the service attitude of each member of the community inspires the service attitude in every other member of the community. And that inspiration of service creates a very, very transcendental energy and a very, very transcendental interconnection between everyone. And so this is another very, very powerful principle that we learn, which makes up a community of love, a community where everyone is becoming inspired to give. They don't come into the community just asking, what am I getting here? What am I getting here? I don't get anything here. No. The opportunity of community is an opportunity to give. It's not about what we're getting here. It's an opportunity of giving, service. And then There's another very, very beautiful interaction between Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is, as we mentioned, very, very powerful in his spiritual absorption. And we hear about the final journey of Haridas Thakur, what happens when he leaves the world. On this particular day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to Siddha Bakul, where Haridas Thakur is staying. Haridas Thakur knows his time is coming, and so holding the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur breathes his final breath and he leaves the world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is right there. Not just there with the devotee throughout their life, but there with the devotee right in the final moment. And when Haridas Thakur leaves, holding the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes the body of Haridas Thakur in his hands, and he goes to the Jagannath ocean, and he bathes the body with his own hands in the ocean. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes back, and with his own hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prepares the tomb for Haridas Thakur's body to go in. And then with his own hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes the body and places it there. And then with his own hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes around the whole town and begs for alms, so that with his own hands, he can cook a feast in honor of Haridas Thakur. In other words, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does everything personally. This is a community of love, a community in which devotees take care of each other, take care of each other at every stage of their life, take care of each other in every aspect and facet of their life, take care of each other in the good times and in the bad times, even when devotees may go a little bit astray. The devotees are always there for each other. And so we see this mood of compassion and care, which really makes a community of love. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is the one who holds everything together. Community of love is a community of love because there is someone or some individuals who lead that community and who ensure that all of these things are happening and who give everyone a place within the community. It's said that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had very long arms. Ajanulam bitabujo kanakavadato samkirtane kapitaro kamalaya taksho Vishvambaro dvijavaro yugadharma palo vande jagat priyakaro karunavataro. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his body was very, very beautiful. But one of the most beautiful features of his body is that his arms were very, very long. So long that when he stood up, his arms came down to his knees. And it's said that his arms being so big are not just a physical description, but his arms were so big in the sense that he could embrace all kinds of people within the community. And therefore, when there's ideal leadership, then in that leadership, leaders always find a place for every single person in the community. In other words, nobody is left out. Everyone is facilitated, and the leader always finds a place where everyone can find some meaningful part to play in the community. And so like this, through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual leadership, everyone is coming together. And in these chapters of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see how a beautiful community is forming. So, I began today by talking about how the Hare Krishna movement is not just an international organization, but it's ultimately a family. It's a community of love. And therefore, in these chapters, when we look at these principles, we can each be community builders. We can each be individuals who add this element to the community. We can each exude the mood of being appreciative and empowering others. We can each exude the mood of being spiritually strong in our own journey. We can all learn how to interact appropriately and how to have proper culture in the way we speak, in the way we relate to each other. And we can all do all of these things. And if we do, and if each member becomes a contributor to the community of love, then the community flourishes. And if the community flourishes, then there's no end to what that community can achieve. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada would sometimes make statements like, I could take over the world in 18 days. In other words, anything's possible for a community, but it begins with how much of that love we create amongst ourselves. And so, by studying the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and reading the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita, we get all of these clues. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you so much for patiently listening. So I think we have about 15 minutes. So I wanted to leave some time. Perhaps you may have some questions or comments or reflections. Then we can. Okay, sure. I don't know if there's a mic for you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. My question is about appreciation and empowerment in devotee communities. We tend to find that devotees with very good qualities tend to attract pratishtha, attract name and fame, and obviously the pure devotees don't have that desire, but naturally it comes to them. And we find that in devotee communities, those devotees tend to be appreciated the most. And then sometimes, if a community is not so healthy, that leads to a culture where actually appreciation does not happen as much because it's focused in certain places, and then people may feel envious, or people may not feel appreciated because, again, the appreciation tends to cluster on people with very good qualities, or at least perceived to have good qualities. So how, as a member of a community, how can we cultivate this culture while also obviously giving the appreciation to those who deserve it the most? How do we balance these two things and have a community where everyone is appreciated, but also devotees with great qualities are also appreciated as they should?
Thank you so much. If you treat someone as they are, then they'll remain as they are. But if you treat someone as they can and should be, then they'll become what they can and should be. Krishna says every soul is amazing. So therefore, innate within every soul is the potentiality of all these amazing qualities. So it's not that some people have the qualities and some people don't. Everyone has it, and all that's happening is that it's being awakened in different degrees according to where people are in their journey. Srila Prabhupada, his great quality was that he saw beyond the confusion, he saw beyond the weakness, he saw beyond all of these things in individuals. He found something good in them and he fanned the spark. It's incredible to think, Srila Prabhupada just created a worldwide movement basically with a bunch of kids. I mean, that's what it was. Nowadays we'd call it a youth group. I mean, at that time it was the whole Hare Krishna movement. It was just a youth group. And because Srila Prabhupada was encouraging people were able to manifest so many qualities. It's interesting when you go to Vrindavan, then you go to, for example, near the Radha Govinda temple, there is the 64 samadhis. So you go to this like courtyard where there's all these samadhis of great souls. And it's like some of them you know, and most of them you've never heard of before. It's like, who is that? These people aren't even described in books. But it's incredible that in the culture of Braj, they may not have been powerful, they may not have been popular, they may not have had that kind of position, but they were honored alongside acharyas like Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, because someone was valued not because of their output, but someone was valued because of their sincerity. So we have to create a culture where we glorify people for the right things, and then people will pursue the right things. But oftentimes we glorify the wrong things, and therefore everyone thinks those are the things that I need to get, achieve to be appreciated, and then we reinforce the wrong culture. So, yes, it's not about numbers. Einstein said, everything that can be counted doesn't necessarily count, and sometimes the things that can't be counted count for more. So that's what we have to encourage, that culture. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was really appreciating your statement that if one becomes mad for Krishna, then the Hare Krishna movement was a success for that person. And I was thinking about how that practically looks in a community, because we've had so many great souls in this movement, and that is a sign that this movement is a complete success. But sometimes these souls were very misunderstood, especially while they were there. It actually, for the most time, it took time until after they departed for people to actually understand the magnitude of their, you could say, devotional Shakti or potency. So I was wondering, in a community, how does that look? Like someone who's on an extremely advanced platform of bhakti, how can that person also be facilitated? Is it even possible? I was wondering if you know how we can go about that.
Yeah, if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's full of eccentric characters. It's amazing. It's very not always understandable to the masses of people, you know. In the Hare Krishna movement, we also, like you said, have seen individuals who may not be appreciated, who may not have done it the mainstream way, who may have seemed to be been a little bit alternative or out of the box in their approach, and sometimes not appreciated appropriately. Like I said, in good communities, there's a place for everyone. And therefore, anyone who is sincerely spending their time trying to connect to Krishna in their own individual way, they must be facilitated, they must be encouraged, they must be appreciated, because it's very, very rare. Anyone who comes to the Krishna consciousness movement, conventional or unconventional, is rare. Manushanam sahasreshu kashkit yatati siddhaye. Out of many thousands, who will? So therefore, every devotee is valuable, the conventional, the unconventional. And yeah, it's hard because we run a system here and we try to get things done, and we to some extent want to organize and structure and we need some level of, social norms and values, and therefore religious institutions are a necessary evil. They're necessary because without, how can we push forward and facilitate everyone? But sometimes they're evil because they don't allow for individual expression. So, what can I say? We just have to try to find a place for everyone and not be too quick to judge anyone who approaches Krishna consciousness in a way which may be different to how I approach it. Because everyone may be expressing their devotion in their own individual, unique way. These are just some thoughts.
Maharaj, so you mentioned about there are three things that could divert us from devotional service, and so sense gratification, suffering, disease. I can't agree more, and because I feel like I experience that every single day. So how do we actually strengthen our spiritual absorption to a point that it's not shaken by modes of nature?
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining in Madhurya Kadambini the progression that we go through in our devotional life. So I'm sure you're aware of that. It begins with faith, and then there's association, and then there's practice, and then there's purification, and then there's conviction, nishta. And then he explains from nishta there's varying degrees of taste. And then he says there's a stage called ashakti. Ashakti means connection or attachment. And he says one of the characteristics of ashakti is that the pain of not serving, the pain of not being connected to Krishna, the pain of not engaging in that which helps me to realize my connection with Krishna is greater, is so great that it trumps any pain that is there in my devotional practice. You understand? In other words, when it becomes more painful to not do it, then the pain that you experience while doing it, you will never give it up. That is basically ashakti. And therefore, it was painful. But the pain of not doing it was even greater. And therefore, there's no question of giving it up. So, another symptom of bhav. Kshantiravyartha kalatvam viraktir manashunyata ashabandha samutkantha namagane sadaruchi ashaktishtad gunakyane ashaktishtad gunakyane. Rupa Goswami says when one reaches the level of bhav, they become addicted. It's an addiction. Like Srila Prabhupada, he just couldn't stop. He just had to continue serving, even despite all the problems, because that's life. That's what makes life meaningful. That's the source of my rasa. So how can I not do it? So we already experienced this with material rasa. You know, sometimes things are so painful from a material point of view. But still, because we want to experience some material taste, we're willing to undergo so many problems for it. So when our spiritual connection becomes that strong, it becomes our shakti, and then these things will happen. So in essence, we actually have to become absorbed in hearing and chanting. That's what it's going to come down to at the end. How much can someone absorb themselves in Hari Kirtan and Hari Katha? Full stop. That's going to be the measure. It's okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You had spoken in the very beginning about that story of Srila Prabhupada waiting for the showers with everyone else at 26 2nd Avenue. And even in Mahaprabhu's Leelas, he's a friend. You know, he's in some ways he's a peer to so many of his associates. You know, Govinda is his godbrother, even though he's his servant. So I was wondering if you could elaborate on the importance of like friendship and like that family atmosphere in the cultivation of a community, and also in our own absorption and implementation of these principles.
Friendship. It's interesting that there are 5 rasas: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. But if you look very, very closely, then you can say all of them contain an element of friendship. For example, even in your relationship with your guru, it's explained, Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandanta Guroritam Acharanda Savannicho Guru Sudrida Saurida. Generally, we think of a guru as someone who is highly worshipable, who is held in the highest esteem. But the Bhagavatam says the guru is also your best friend. So therefore, in that type of relationship, there's great friendship. I don't have personal experience, but even they say in conjugal relationships between husband and wife, the best relationships are where they're best friends. I've heard. And even when you're a servant, like there's a friendship with the person who's overseeing you. So it's a friendly movement. It's a friendly community. Like we have different dynamics in which we relate to each other, but the basic thing is to be friendly to each other. Like there's different words for friend in Sanskrit, and many words, but one of the words is surid, and surid literally means to wish someone well. And so in any relationship, it's only really a relationship if you're wishing them well. And the way in which that friendship may be exhibited may vary, but that friendly spirit is always there. So, yes, we should embody that friendly mood. And so you see that in Srila Prabhupada, like he was so friendly, even though a great spiritual authority, but very friendly. It's very interesting, George Harrison, he says something very beautiful about Prabhupada. He said, Srila Prabhupada was so great, he was so high, he was so close to Krishna. But he said, whenever you were around him, you never felt small, you never felt insignificant, or you never felt uncomfortable. He said, sometimes someone's greatness can be so overpowering that it almost makes you feel uncomfortable. But he said the unique thing is, every time I was around Srila Prabhupada, his greatness never made me feel tiny, insignificant, awkward, or uncomfortable. He just made you feel so accepted. I thought that was amazing, amazing observation. And so that friendliness, that warm kind of, so important. Yeah. I'm not looking here, okay.
Just a quick, just connecting the dots with something that you said I found very inspirational, really with the last few questions. and then the previous question about the unconventional characters or the unorthodox approaches. And at the very beginning, you said that the success of our Krishna consciousness movement is to the degree that we maintain that family atmosphere and that home. So if someone's family, then if they're unconventional orthodox, you can't leave a family member. Yeah. And the friendship and everything, I feel like, is coming round circle. It's not an ordinary religious institution. This is a family, a home that Srila Prabhupada created. So in that home, there's room for everyone, regardless of how unconventional they may be.
Thank you so much. Yeah, beautiful point. Appreciate that. Yeah, a house in which the whole world can live. Okay, I think we are coming to time, so thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Haribo, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki. His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Kesava Maharaj ki. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have a quick announcement about the Maharaj's books, and afterwards Maharaj will lead us in the Shayan Arti.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. So, as you may know, as well as being such a wonderful speaker and guide for us all, Maharaj is also a really beautiful author. And we have 5 of his books available for everyone at the back of a room here. For those of you who maybe haven't had an opportunity to get Maharaj's books before, we'll just quickly go through what they are. So the first book is Tattva. Tattva is it's a book done in question and answer form. So as Maharaj has traveled around the world, he's been asked so many different questions. And in this book, he's really beautifully answered the most pressing questions in life, which is relatable for all of us. We also have Gita Free. Gita Free is a summary of a Bhagavad Gita, but done in a very practical way. So there's over 50 different thought experiments, life hacks, and meditations in there. It's a very practical way to put the Gita's teachings to life. We also have Gita Life. So Maharaj, as he did today, Maharaj really wonderfully puts really complex ideas in really simple ways. So for example, today he summarized the community of love with teachings from the Chaitanya Charitamrita in acronym form. And so these 3 books are all done in acronyms. So he's got Gita Life, Book Bhagavat, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita Compact, where he's really, in such an incredible way, put all of these complex ideas, beautiful stories in a simple way where we can understand the main teachings and lessons from them. And yeah, so they're basically incredible study guides. So if any of you ever studying the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam or CC, these are wonderful books to get. So they're available at the back there. We take card payments as well as cash payments, I believe. So please see Pooja and Shyam at the back there if you'd like any. And Maharaj may be available after the Kirtan just to sign a few of the books if you're very lucky. Thank you. Hare Krishna.